Yeah, I just want to go home. I can feel some inner tension within myself, though. Anybody else? Like, how, right? How and really? So I'm going to be doing a series over the next 4 weeks. So this Sunday is abundant living, next Sunday is intentional living, Sunday after that is conscious living, and the fourth week is joyful living. And I wanted to start with abundance because for me, it's one of those foundational components of what we understand and believe in unity. And I really do believe that when we are not feeling abundant, everything else starts to fall apart. And that if we can anchor this piece, that then we can grow into more intentionality, and then we can grow into more conscious living, and then we can grow into joy. And I don't know, I mean, I've been sick, right? And how do you sit with abundance besides an abundance of tissues lying next to me on the bed? How do you sit with abundance when you're not feeling well? How do you sit with abundance when you know that there are people who are going hungry in this world? How do you sit in abundance when people have been lost everything that they own has been sort of taken away through the fires? Like, how do you actually anchor that? And it really does ask us to sort of really stand in what we know and believe in unity. That we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And that spiritual perspective is where we want to live from, and it's hard. I was rereading the book study that we did last year, The World Could Be Otherwise, and one of the things he talks about, which I was like, yeah, that he says that our human understanding is like one eye, and our spiritual life, our spiritual perspective allows us to open up, allows us to see beyond the immediate circumstance. So, you can tell I've been gone. So, the Lunar New Year is coming up. And I don't know about you, but right about now is when I need some New Year energy. Anybody else with me? Like, we start off the New Year all great and hot, and then it sort of becomes life with a little L. So this year is the year of the wood snake. I am a wood snake. So if you were born in 1965 and you were born in 2025, you are a wood snake. I know there's a lot of people in here born in 1953. You all had that party last year. You are all water snakes, just to differentiate, right? So the year of the wood snake is about a combination of the snake, which is about adaptation and intuition, and wood, which is about renewal and growth and creativity. It's a very forward energy, the wood. And so overall, it's a year where you're being invited to learn new things and develop new skills so that you can shed your skin, right? You shed that skin so that you can be a wiser you. Anybody in here want to be a wiser you? But there is a little caveat, because that wood energy is so intense, that you also want to balance your intuition and all of that with strategic planning. Not to let's just try this and just leap into things. Throughout the year, you're being invited to listen to your intuition and balance it with some strategic thought. And then the whole point of it is that you're invited to apply whatever it is that you're learning, and that you are capable of incredible breakthroughs in the things that have been stuck and blocking you. Anybody in here want to get rid of some of those blocks? So this is part of an abundance consciousness. Can you feel that? The shedding of our skin, the breaking through into a wiser, new understanding. So one of the best practices that I personally know is to declutter and purge. Anybody been doing that this year? Okay, so we did this here at Unity in Marin 2 weeks ago, okay? I cannot tell you the things we were pulling out of places. There were things that long-standing members, Carolyn has been here forever, we'd pull something out and she would be like, I have no idea what that is. I have no idea why it's there. I have no idea why we kept it. So decluttering is about creating space in our life for something new. And so here are some guidelines here to remember, because I know it can be traumatic. Anybody in here like to hold on to their stuff? Okay, so stuff is never just stuff, but your stuff is not you. Everybody say that. Stuff is never just stuff, but stuff is not you. Because we get very attached that our stuff means who we are. If you don't remember you own it, then you may as well not own it. So if you're digging around and you're like, oh my God, I forgot I had this, time to let it go. Your idea of tasteful has changed. It actually has gotten better. Remember that. The things that you thought were tasteful 20 years ago, they're not necessarily as tasteful as what you would choose right now. And yes, things get old. Electronics, socks, makeup, canned food, frozen food, sunscreen. How many people in here have expired sunscreen in their drawers? Medication, storage containers. If it's obsolete, expired, missing a lid, or has a hole in it, let it go. Right? And then the question you just got to keep asking yourself is, how many blanks do I really need? Really, right? Less is more. Now, what happens when we step into this place is that we're actually opening ourselves up to something, right? Your heart can never have what it longs for when it is full of what you settled for. Your heart can never have what it longs for when it's full of what you settled for. And what we know in our teaching is that what is alive in our consciousness is mirrored in what is in our outside experience. So you can do the work of shifting your thoughts and your beliefs and your understandings to shift what is showing up in your life, but you can also do the reverse. You can shift the outer world to help you be able to shift your consciousness. Does that make sense to everyone? Because they're connected, they're not separate. So purging, moving things out, is actually creating space. And nature abhors a vacuum. It abhors a vacuum. So when you create space, you're actually making room for something new to come into your life. What is your heart longing for? Do you even know? Have you paid attention? Or are you just so comfortable with where you are that you're not connected? Remember, this is the year of intuition. This is about listening to your deepest self. What are you actually longing for? I actually made this image with AI, right? They have this interface where you can tell them what you want the image to be, and then AI builds it for you. Crazy. This is a crazy world we live in. I loved it. It was so much fun. So this is how most of us operate. We're in our little world. with all our lovely stuff around us, and we can see some of the light outside the window. But what we're missing is everything that is possible for us that looks nothing like what we are in the middle of right now. And it doesn't even mean that you have to, I couldn't get her looking happier. This AI didn't like that. You don't even have to be unhappy about where you are right now. But are you actually really listening to what your heart longs for? What are you not paying attention to? So, how do we remind ourselves that this is an abundant universe? In the midst of everything that's happening, whatever might be going on for you, how do we remind ourselves? So I'm sharing with you what I do, right? The tools that I use. And the big one for me is I just spend time contemplating cosmos because it's infinite. There are so many stars, there's so many galaxies, there's so many planets, there's so much space. And if I spend time just contemplating that, it can literally sort of open me up and open my heart up. The other one I love to use is grains of sand. Because could you ever count the grains of sand? I mean, you really can't. And there's something about that for me that helps me to remember, like, right, it all looks like beach, but it's actually not beach. It's an infinite number of grains of sand that are creating something. The ocean, the waves in the ocean, the drops of water in the ocean, right? What is it that ignites your heart to help you recognize the abundance that is all around you right now? The grass, right? You can't even begin to count it. It's like there's a place where we get to enter into like the awe and the mystery. And that is directly linked to having an abundant, prosperous mindset. The leaves on the trees, right? And can you feel how it's inviting you into something that's not single-eyed? It's inviting you into a larger understanding of something. So you can go outside yourself like this. The other way I like to go is the micro. So these are cells in our body. The infinite number of cells that you're shedding, that you're carrying, that are being produced. We can't count them. It's absolutely abundant. Traffic. I know you're like, what? But how many people pay attention to that? This is an abundance. This is an abundance of people. It's an abundance of cars. It's an abundance of smog. But can you feel how? So here's the thing about spiritual principle. It exists, period. Abundance exists. We can use it as a tool for something that helps us be supported. And we can also use the same principle for something like traffic. Now, I actually use traffic. I used to use it on BART all the time. You're sitting there with all these people around you. And I would just say, look at how abundant this planet is. Look at how different everybody is. And reminding myself, rather than being annoyed and irritated, using it as a tool to remind me about the wholeness that we are. So the real question that you get to keep asking yourself is, where is your attention? Are you focused on the lack? Are you focused on what you don't have? Or are you focused on your blessings? Are you actually counting your blessings? There's that song, right, Irving Berlin? Count your blessings, right? And it's this sweet little children's lullaby. Do you actually count your blessings? Or do you just take them for granted? Do you just sort of go, oh yeah, no, this is, baseline. Well, in a lot of countries, what we consider baseline is like wealth beyond imagining. We take so much for granted here, and not even in other countries. There are places right here in Marin where what we consider to be, quote unquote, the baseline is radically wealthy. Radically wealthy. How many people have a lemon tree? I mean, we know what happens when the lemons come in. We just have so much of them. Remind yourself of these things. We have family, right? We have friends. Those, do we have an abundance of those kinds of blessings? Because sometimes when we think about abundance, all we do is get fixated on stuff. And remember, your stuff is not you. Your friendships, your connections, your love, those would certainly be things that are closer to you. And then we always have choice. Even when we don't think we do, we always have choice. We always have options as to how we want to navigate something, as to how we want to perceive something. Always. And I know it doesn't feel like that sometimes, but that is the truth of who we are. It's foundational to unity, that we always are choosing. The question is, where are you choosing from? Are you choosing from your lack, from your not enoughness? Or are you choosing from the abundance that is always all around us? So you're counting your blessings, okay. Then what do you do? Because I think that part of this time in the world is about how are we getting out of our own little bubbles, and how are we actually going to be in the world as a place for transformation and change. And so it's great if you count your own blessings, but the real point of abundance is you have to share them. You have to share your blessings. And so my invitation to all of us is to commit one act of generosity a day. One act of generosity a day, consciously, intentionally, joyfully. We're going to keep coming back to this, right, through the next 4 weeks. But how can you, first you have to be aware of your blessings, because you can't share what you're not aware of. And then once you are really clear, then how do you actually share them with the world? So maybe it's time. Some of you have a lot of time on your hands. Some of you have no time on your hands. You actually have all the time you need, wherever you are. So you can get into lack consciousness around time. You can get into lack consciousness around energy. You can get into lack consciousness around health and vitality. So share your time, maybe. Share your talents. What are the things you know you do really well? Share your skills. Maybe there are people in here who I know declutter, right? Do you know somebody who could use your skill? Do you know somebody who you could offer that skill to? Maybe you have resources, right? Beyond just money. Money is one thing, but maybe you have a car. Maybe you can drive somebody somewhere. Maybe you can help get somebody here on Sunday mornings. Maybe you can help them get to a doctor. Encouragement. Could you maybe just be generous with your encouragement? And not just with others, can you also be generous with encouragement for yourself? Compassion? Can you be generous with your compassion? I'm working that right now. I turn on the news and I just have to be generous with my compassion, right? Finding a way to continue to stand in an abundance consciousness and be generous with it all. Send a thank you card. If you can't afford to send a card, send a thank you email. If you don't have email, go knock on somebody's door and say, thank you. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for caring about me. Thank you for showing up for me. Thank you for being such an incredible presence on the planet. and smiles. Could you just smile at people? Right? I mean, there's so many levels as to how we can be generous that there is no excuse, right? There really isn't an excuse for standing in our generosity. In The World Could Be Otherwise, in his chapter on generosity, he says, what if you just wipe down the bathroom sink when you leave a public restroom? It's an act of generosity. Can you feel that? And these acts of generosity, so here's the thing about abundance consciousness is giving and receiving are the same thing. If there is something you want in your life, guess what? You're being invited to give it. There's something you want more love, you want more peace, you want more clarity, you have to give love. You have to give that peace. You have to give that clarity. Does that make sense to everyone? This is how we change the world. One generous act at a time. One generous act each day. Think about that. 365 generous acts per person, multiplied by the number of people in this community, multiplied by everyone else who starts to catch the vision and the idea of it. Oh, look, I'm done. I told you my word was brevity. I wasn't lying. But I'm surprising myself even. Can you feel how we're being invited to something that moves us out of whatever limitations we're carrying for ourselves? Limitations of what we think we're capable of, limitations of what we think other people are capable of. We all do this, right? We decide what we think the people in our life are capable of. What if we actually let them decide what they're capable of? What if we actually encourage them to understand their capacities, their abilities? Because this year of the wood snake is all about breaking through those old patterns. It's all about shedding the skin. It's all about allowing ourselves to actually be abundant in every area. Now you'll notice I didn't really talk about money. Did everybody catch that? That's not, everyone focuses on money. Money is an outpicturing of your abundance consciousness. Money is an energetic way that we exchange things. Yes? I mean, most of us don't actually even touch money anymore, right? Because it's literally exists as zeros and ones that just get moved around in the cloud. Money in and of itself is just a way of expressing an exchange of energy. So if money is an area where you want to experience more abundance, start with the generosity of everything else. And I can guarantee that as you keep showing up and being generous, all of a sudden you're going to realize that you actually have more resources than you thought you did. All of a sudden you're going to realize that you don't have to hold on to your money or your resources. This is the thing that is hard, but money is meant to be spent. Breathe into that with me. Money is meant to be spent. It is not meant to be hoarded. Y'all know who I'm talking to. You know who you are. It's not meant to be held onto. It is an energetic that allows us to show up in the world in a way so that my act of generosity doesn't have to just be because I'm in the same room with you. I can be an act of generosity. I can send money to Los Angeles, right? And that allows the person in LA to transform my generosity into exactly what they want and what they need. So just know that giving is receiving. Whatever it is you want more of, you have to be it first. You have to model it. That is how you begin to bring that energy into your life. So let's take this into our time of meditation. Jeremy's ready. And as we quiet, I'm just going to invite that deep listening, allowing the intuition and the wisdom of the snake, that symbol, to just be alive for you right now. I invite you to soften the heart and quiet the mind. And from a bird's eye view, just sort of try and see your life. Not with a single eye, but from that spiritual perspective. See your life. Where are you settling? Where is your heart longing for something new? Where have you closed off or closed down or decided something that you can allow yourself to open up? That you can choose anew? That you can welcome a new understanding? What are you being invited to shed, to let fall away? And then I want you to touch what's possible. Just the idea of what might be possible. The possibility of more love. The possibility of more joy. The possibility of more security. The possibility of more freedom, more authenticity, and more joy. And let's just spend a moment resting here with the possibilities together in the silence. As we say yes, yes to those possibilities being made manifest in our life, yes to the abundance that is all around us, yes to the blessings that are ours right now, and the longing of our heart, which is calling us towards more and never less. I just see and I anchor for each of us courage and steadfastness. A willingness is enough. A willingness for transformation, for growth, for something new, for that breakthrough, so that we may show up in the fullness of our generous love, loving extravagantly. And from this place, This is where the longing of our heart, what it is calling us towards, always. And so it is. Amen. Ashe. So our affirmation today is actually our offering affirmation. I thought it was kind of perfect. I am the power of abundance, giving and receiving gratefully. We're going to get to say it again later, but can you ever say this too many times? I don't think so. So can we say this together, please? I am the power of abundance, giving and receiving gratefully. And so it is.